In the last video, we forged out this file knife. Now, this is the first knife in a while that I felt like keeping, so we're gonna make this bad boy my new personal knife. But in order for it to be fully functional, we gotta make a sheath for it. I may be no expert on sheaths, but that doesn't mean I haven't tried it a few times in the past. And it's always fun to figure out a new problem, so I'm gonna take you guys along. And by the end of this, we're gonna have a great sheath to use with the knife.
Alright, the material we're using today is some scrap leather that I got from Hobby Lobby. You can find these really cheap packs that have a lot of nice little scrap leather. And right off the bat, I'm going to start by sketching out the knife shape and then cutting some of the leather to shape. And now I'm sketching out this little plastic piece from a Far's ice cream container, and I'm going to also cut that out into the shape of the knife. The reason why is because I want the backing of this to be a little bit harder, but still flexible, and that plastic is kind of my best option off of what I have right now. So now we're going to epoxy all of it, get this backing completely set up, so then we are ready to work on the rest of the sheath while it dries. I cut the Far's ice cream container lid in half, and then I pinned it between that and the clamp, so then we have some evenly distributed pressure and hopefully the epoxy sets well. Now what I'm going to get going on is getting the outline cut out for the sheath itself so then the knife can fit in nicely. And then I cut some smaller pieces for the base of the sheath because obviously the knife handle is going to be a little bit wider than the knife blade, so we want it to all fit nicely. And then, yeah, we got to get this thing all epoxied up. A lot of this is going to be an epoxy work from what I've seen off of other sheath making videos. But yeah, right here, I'm just putting together that thicker stack at the base, like I just barely mentioned. And then we'll let the epoxy cure and get nice and solid for us. Flash forward a few hours and we have the backing and siding dry, and now we can start working on the other side of the sheath. Now I want to do a strap with a button. I put the male piece on the strap and then the female piece is going to go on the backing for me. Get it all attached, nicely fixed up. And then we're going to epoxy it, and then once it's dry, we're going to start punching some holes so we can sew. This will add some reinforcement, just make me feel a little bit better about all of it overall. Now I'm going to move over to the belt sander, so then those edges on the siding are going to be nice and smooth. So then we have a nice smooth transition when we glue it all together. So here we are now gluing it all together, getting all the epoxy everywhere we need it to be. We're going to put a little spacer there so then we make sure we have a little bit of extra leeway at the top. And then once that's all dried, going to cut off some of the edges because, like I said, I made that a little bit bigger so there's leeway at the top. I'm punching all my holes manually with a nail because I don't have a leather sewing machine, which is a bit of a pain in the butt, but you know, it gets the job done. Now once all those edges are punched, we can start doing some sewing. Shout out to my mom for helping me figure this out because I am not very good at sewing, and she used to teach home ec classes. But basically, going to be pushing it through a lot. When it gets to the thicker parts, I had to use some clamps to pull the needle fully through. But you know, it got the job done, and once I got to the end of it, I'm going to sew it back just so then we have a solid line of stitching throughout the entire thing, and I think it makes it look a little bit better aesthetically. I'm going to hurry and glue down a part that I pulled up for the stitching so then it was hidden, and here we are with it all stitched up. Now I've got to move it over to the belt sander one more time to smoothen up the edges, make it look really nice, get rid of some of those edges that just come along in the process overall. Once it's all smoothed out, we're going to move back into the garage and use some epoxy to seal up the edges. This will help reinforce that stack once again and also just make it look a little bit nicer in my opinion. And that's about as far as I'm going to go as far as the finishing for the edges. Don't really know a lot about sheath making, like I said at the beginning of this video, but hey, it looks like we figured it out pretty well. Now we just got to clean off some of the extra epoxy that got on there. I like to use nail polish remover. I use this on knives and stuff whenever I have extra epoxy. Helps clean it up really nicely and isn't going to be something that's going to ruin your piece.
And just like that, we have got ourselves a finished sheath. If you enjoyed this video, I'd recommend watching my Tonto knife video right here. That was a real fun project and a really good knife build, and was a really cool stylistic blade. Thank you guys so much for all the support I've seen recently. We just hit 2,000 subscribers, which is so crazy. And yeah, like, subscribe, all that jazz helps me out, and I'll see you in the next one.